Hey everybody, how you doing? It's the Scene Snob here, back again, doing another movie review. I had the privilege of watching The Irishman on Wednesday, and I immediately wanted to do a review of this 3.5 hour epic. But I felt honestly, with everything coming up, I had a lot to do with Thanksgiving. Plus, I wanted to give it another watch. Yeah, I needed to see that 3 hour, 3.5 hour epic again. This was just truly beautiful movie. I watched it the first time with my wife and Mrs. Scene Snob, and she gushed over it. Now, she does this thing when we watch it and watch movies together where she kind of drives me nuts a little bit, but in a cute way. Where she's like, "Is that true? Is that like especially if it's like a biopic type movie?" And this one was very much so. Um, especially because it handles Jimmy Hoffa, and Jimmy Hoffa was a real person, and everybody in it was real. But like, she kept asking me about Jimmy Hoffa, and cause I guess because I'm from New Jersey, New York area, and so she was like, "Is that true? Is that true? Is that true?" And I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, I have no idea, other than having seen the Hoffa movie with Jack Nicholson years ago, and having always heard, because I grew up 20 minutes from it, that Hoffa was buried under Giant Stadium. I had no idea. I knew he was a president of the Teamsters Union. That's it. But she kept watching it. She's so enthralled by it, and like, it was such an, not just what she thought, but like what I thought too. Like, the movie puts its claws in you, like every Scorsese movie does. Now, I say that knowing full well some of the movies he directed, people have talked about and said that they didn't really like. But there's something about Scorsese movies that really just like put claws on you and pull you in, and you are just in. Like, and the one that does it for me the most is Goodfellas. Goodfellas is just, it's a perfect movie in my opinion. Casino is great. Casino is a great movie, and my boy Joe Bob's in it, so I gotta love it even more just for that. But um, now I would say Aviator, things like that. Now the reason I bring these up, um, Taxi Driver, and whatnot, like these movies, um, is because it feels like there's little pieces of all of them in this giant epic movie, and I don't mean just the actors. Now, he's never worked with Pacino before, which was, I mean, this is probably, Pacino has done some amazing things. Now, I'm just talking about his later career. His movie career on the box office has kind of waned. I don't know what he's choosing, but I haven't seen really a great movie from him. He gives great performances, but a great movie from him in a long time until this one, except for like his HBO movies, playing Paterno, playing Kevorkian, all of them that he's done have been amazing. He's brilliant in them. He's just, it's right up his alley. So when he played Hoffa, he just sank his teeth into the role, and it was just amazing. He was so terrific in this movie. They all were. De Niro had to carry the entire movie about his character, had to carry the entire movie, all these different timelines and such. This had to be not a production nightmare, but like almost like a nightmare for a script supervisor to have to keep track of every single thing going on. But it had to. It also has to be like watching a movie like this, going back. And a script supervisor deserves an Academy Award when movies like this come out, and they do. That movies like this come out quite often that we don't really recognize or think about. But something like this, it's a 3.5 hour movie, so you know how long this took to film. Like, this is like years of people's lives, and this like script supervisor, not to mention the rest of the crew, had to keep track of so many different times, because it starts out when he's an old man, then it goes back to when he's like middle aged, and hops all over the place. Now, I understand you can film everything in order when you're filming, blah blah blah, but you have to remember this character said this and then did this and acted like this, or we have to keep up with it, or it's just it's truly amazing the work that had to have gone into this movie, and it shows. And of course it does because it's a Scorsese movie. But with all that said, like, movies like Hugo, things like that, they didn't do too well, um, for Scorsese. But so a lot of people had been calling for a long time for him to come back to like the mob type movies, that genre. And then I go back and I watch, and I'm like, yeah, you watch Goodfellas, you watch like Mean Streets, Goodfellas, Casino, movies like that. You watch them and you're like, damn, they're so good. They're like, he's so good with the mob movies, so good with the mob. But watch them again, and like this movie, like The Irishman. After you watch it, like, they're not mob movies. These are character studies. These are, I mean, all he's doing is following the element, or the people that he grew up with in his area, and it's true. Like, I mean, it's not a mob movie. We're dealing with the mob. There are guys in the mob that work for the mob. Joe Pesci's character is a boss. And I'll get to the performances in a second, but like Scorsese, like to boil his movies down, like these epic, beautiful movies, down to, oh, it's a mob movie, is doing it a disservice. Like, these are, oh my God, like I don't think you don't get any better. You really don't. Like, think about most of his movies. They're go-tos, and like, I would put, maybe, there's a lot of mob movies out there, don't get me wrong, but I would not put these in. Like, The Departed is not a mob movie. It's just character studies of the people who live in that area and grow up in that area. And this was no different. This was perfect in every single facet. Now, I've gushed about Al Pacino, and I've said good things about Robert De Niro. Not enough about Robert De Niro, because he did an amazing job in this movie. Truly brilliant. But the best performance, this dude better be nominated. He deserves it. And not just nominated, he deserves to win. Out of everybody, yes, Al Pacino did great. Yes, Robert De Niro did great. Yes, everybody in this movie did great. But Joe Pesci, the Jersey boy himself, deserves the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. He was truly brilliant. Actors should watch this movie to learn how to act from him. He was, he encompassed, because it jumps around so much in the time, and like, you see him at different, you see him at different ages throughout the life. Like, everybody was kind of like, I want to say, pulled it off really well, but was still kind of stiff. Like De Niro is De Niro. Pacino is Pacino. I'm not saying that they aren't great actors. I'm not saying, but you do see them in it. Like, you see, like, oh, it's these amazing actors doing this. Joe Pesci disappeared into his role, and he does in every role, in my opinion. I mean, look at the versatility of his acting. We watched Home Alone yesterday too, and I forgot Joe Pesci was in that, and he is one of the most pivotal roles. And it's not that I forgot; it's that I remember the character. I didn't remember that Joe Pesci was in it. And it's the same with My Cousin Vinny, and just so many amazing roles. And I'll always gush over Joe Pesci. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. In one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And I was so happy when I heard he was coming back. And when I heard he was coming back for this, I thought it was going to be a much smaller part than it was. He was in this, and he was a pivotal role throughout the entire thing. And I was so happy that he was in this as much as he was. And because you had heard he retired, and there's been lots of rumors about that and such. But he came back and he did this role perfectly. And again, like, I watched it twice, and I'm like, I forget it's Joe Pesci at times. And like, I'm just like, it's Russell Buffalino, and I'm like, oh my God. like every actor in it was just like, yeah, no, they're doing fantastic. Oh, Ray Romano too. I want to give him a shout out. He was fantastic in that as the lawyer, and he was in it a lot. And it, a lot of like emotion came out of every actor. Heartbreak on De Niro's part was beautiful. The viciousness of Al Pacino's character, Jimmy Hoffa, was beautiful. Um, the well put together, smart lawyer character of Ray Romano was just, it was wonderful. Like they all did great. And then I got to go back and I got to gush on Pesci because Joe Pesci, he just was this character. He just was it. And then I just, again, like I when I started doing this review, I even like forgot it was Joe Pesci in it. I was gonna gush about the character, and I was like, it's still Joe Pesci. Like, just you gotta mention him, in my own head. So, I can keep going on and on and on about this movie. It was brilliant, and if you have 3.5 hours, sit down and watch it. But I just wanted to come out here and just really like go over everything that I loved about it, and it follows these times. A lot of it is very recognizable to me because I lived in those areas and things like that. I've hung out in Philly, DC, all over. Lived in Florida, so like a lot of the setting like really kind of sparked with me. But all this shows is that Martin Scorsese is still truly brilliant, still has it, still is amazing, and I loved every second of it. Um, I wish we could get more from him. And now with the de aging, we've talked about this in other podcasts and stuff like that. With the de aging effect, it doesn't bother me as much in situations like this, but it does leave like a moral, a question of morality of like, there's so many young actors that are up and coming that are kind of waiting their turn. Like, shouldn't they have the chance to do this? To step up in the roles rather than older actors now being de-aged, being able to keep doing these roles. But I don't know. I could watch. Then you watch Joe Pesci's performance in this, and you're like, yeah, but I want him around forever. Please de-age him. Like, let's give me a My Cousin Vinny too, because I can watch that movie on loop over and over and over again. But with that being said, like I still doesn't bother me. I don't want to get into the morality of it, and I'll talk about it more on the podcast, that sort of thing. But this is truly a brilliant movie, and if you love Scorsese movies, if you love just good movies in general, biopics, things like that, go check this out. It is worth the 3.5 hours. It didn't feel like it didn't drag. Everything throughout the entire thing was an epic beauty. So it was fantastic, and I definitely want you to see it, and I want to know what you think. So come back to me after you watch it. Comment, message me, whatever. I do want to know what you guys think. What do you think about different performances? I gushed over Joe Pesci the most, so what do you guys think? Like, who is your favorite character in it? And things like that. What was your favorite part of it? And then also check out the scenesnobs.com. We have a lot of good podcasts and videos and such going up. The Scene Snobs YouTube channel, lots of videos, and all our podcasts are up there too in video format. We have our shows, which are the 20-Minute Wrestling Podcast, the Scene Snobs Podcast, A Marriage Like That Podcast with me and Mrs. Scene Snob hosting, and a few more on the way. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Scene Snob, and like us on Facebook, the Scene Snobs. You'll get all the updates and such of what's coming out and things like that, and other fun stuff too. So until then, have a great day. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.